right now, I'd like to speak about the topic of digital personality, attacks against personality in social media and other media. We'll talk with Kirill Sunchakov, responsible for security and positive technologies.
Александром Швецом, директором по информационным технологиям.
Alexander Shvets, Director for IT and User Privacy Protection in VKontakte, VK.
Директором по
Oleg Sedov,
Telecom Solar.
Director for Development of Rostelecom. Hello, Oleg.
И Александром Борисовым, руководителем
And Alexander Borisov,
анализа защищенности и на Stage.
Heads of Security Analysis in a Stage. Hi.
Вот такая экспертная у нас аудитория для...
So this is the expert panel that we have to discuss a very important subject, the digital personality.
Давайте для начала разберемся
To
вообще.
start with, let's try to sort out what is meant by digital personality. For instance, I have an account in VK, in other social media that are not allowed today. Is that my digital personality? What is a digital personality? Peter, starting with you. Okay. In my opinion, digital personality is the combination of information that you can collect about a person from open sources. Social media, some profiles in other web services, information from other public registries and databases, based on which you can build an analytical portrait of a person, what interests they have, where they work. Everything starts with their full name and date and birthday. So I think this is what it's all about. Okay, let's discuss that. Digital personality. What steps you need to make in order...
Давайте два захода. Зная имя и фамилию.
Let's do it in two ways. Knowing the first name and surname of a person, not knowing how they look, and knowing their picture and not knowing what they're called, if it's possible.
Имя и фамилию.
Can we identify their name and number? Alexander, let's start with you. Well, it's like a dangerous path. I would say that you need to use some more information in order to identify a person, because it should be some combination of some personal data. It shouldn't be just a name and surname. It should be a first name, a last name, and a phone number, or some other ID, because otherwise it would be difficult to say that this
Какой идентификатор?
is a separate person. Okay, it's a first name, last name, and some ID. For instance, a phone number. Okay, you know, first name, last name, and a phone number. What you can do about that? I think we're stepping on a very dangerous thread where discussion is turning into a hacking masterclass. We're not going to tell you what can be done with that, so it should be abused. Okay, let me rephrase.
Можно
How
знать, какая
one can learn what information is stored in the network about yourselves. About me, for instance. How can I know what the internet knows about me?
Есть замечательная экосистема, например.
There's a great ecosystem. For instance, we all have mobile phones. They are linked to certain operating systems. They have
Здесь мы можем зайти
cloud storage facilities. And here
уважаемым
we can
еще
go to
запрос
respected aggregators
по себе подобным.
and make a request just for the interest.
С фотографий
I collected information about myself, and I got several dozen gigabytes, starting from which places I visit to how much I spend sleeping at night and how many steps I'm making a day. And this is the first thing you can do based on such search.
Мне кажется, действительно, надо отталкиваться
I think, indeed, you should start from the criminal scenario that bad guys can think about what they want to know about you. Sometimes they don't need anything to do what they want. For instance, the network you almost mentioned that's not been allowed for the last year.
полгода,
A lot
он уже не надежен.
has been done to secure accounts.
Аккаунт будет
For instance, if if you haven't changed your password for the past year, a risk is high
Шантажа.
that your account will be stolen. And then it could be done,
На
it could be used with wrong intentions.
Даже аккаунтов.
This account can even be sold in an exchange, in special exchange. I won't tell you how to get it. So in this exchange, they sell stolen information about persons. You can do it wholesale. There were other ways.
по своим профилям.
For instance, I would want to come to you with some criminal goal, but I couldn't do that as myself. I needed something to, pose for.
Мечты.
So, for instance, I go to criminal resource, and I come to you as a friend of your wish. Had you been like 13 to 15, how did it understand? How did it do? I just prompt in your watch. There's 21st century on your watch. It can already be done.
Никогда не носил.
Вот, то есть этот ресурс криминальный.
So this resource, of course, is criminal. It was built by psychologists who accurately scan your desires, your way of life, and if it's about a young person and they're not very attentive, so this bot could start going across the whole network as
А можно вообще вот такого бота,
your seeming friend. What
идеальный
can you identify this bot as an ideal friend? How not to fall victim to such a guy?
Если ваш друг добавляет,
Well, perhaps I think if a friend
это повод
is getting added to you as a friend again, that's
человек,
actually enough for you to get in touch with them and ask a question why they're adding to you.
его последнюю активность.
So if somebody is coming to me again, and
Это какие
you can go and see the pictures.
спрашивать,
If the friend has started asking you about money,
минимум набрать
it's also a reason,
телефон, спросить,
to call him on the phone, ask him
продолжить диалог.
if everything's okay, and then to continue talking, but never to start a discussion with such an account that 10 years after silence has decided to remind
Действительно, они
you of him asking for money. My colleagues will confirm that they're indeed growing very fast. Several years ago,
синтезировать.
the
Даже голос можно синтезировать.
deepfake couldn't deal very well with the face and hands, with the hair and hands. Now it has become possible.
Поэтому если
So they're developing quite fast.
можно было
If in the past a bot could be asked a foolish question,
например,
like for instance a picture with a cup of coffee on your head,
не затруднение.
your friend could do that, and bot wouldn't. But now bots can do even that.
Сейчас зашел в ВК и увидел.
So I've entered VK now
Это
and saw dozens of doppelgangers. This is something that I won't tolerate.
если вдруг заходишь и
And by the way, if, for instance, you go into social media and see
или если
doppelganger,
аккаунт
or
угнали,
if your account has been hijacked, what to do?
Но здесь два случая. Первый, если
Well, there are two scenarios here. If the account has been hijacked,
ну,
the user will most likely be able to restore it if they have a phone to which the account has been linked, and if it's possible to restore the profile quite fast. If the person understands
его двойник
that a doppelganger appeared,
жалобу
they can send a complaint to this page and block the page by confirming that they are the only owner, and the next profile is a doppelganger that are trying to clone them, starting from the name, starting to add the avatars, trying to add itself to their friends. That will be enough for his account to be blocked. I've actually passed through the story, and colleagues did a good job. Indeed, a very simple and clearly understandable procedure. Perhaps after some IT conference,
Использовали его и описание, которое
they used my picture and a description
но коллеги
that
прекрасно отработали
from my article, but the colleagues from the social network
запись.
приятно слышать.
were able to fix that in just a day or two.
Решила, что
It's not no, but what will happen with your network if a popular blogger that her previous boyfriend is not her boyfriend anymore, and she would delete that photo?
сходу ответить.
What will be the fate of this picture? Great question. I can't answer off the cuff.
больше не покажет.
So basically, does it mean that this network will not be shown for this blogger, but the picture will stay somewhere in the cemetery of photos in darknet, from which these pictures are downloaded day from day? Why? Well, look, imagine these people would grow really big, and that would be enough for the black whale. So, recommendation to all our viewers:
Люди и потом.
please don't keep your pictures without attention.
А то, что заархивировано, может
Archive them, and
попасть на помойку фотографий.
at least they won't get to the cemetery of pictures.
Имени
A question.
телефона
Imagine
нахожу информацию, которая
I find information by my name and phone in the internet, and I see
какие-то фотографии,
that there are some pictures there
какая-то информация в социальных сетях, которая является
or some information from social media which is either false or that I would like to remove. What to do about that? How can I remove that?
Достаточно
Well, for search engines,
права над забвением.
the story is quite simple about the royal for forgetfulness.
Ты куда обратить
When you can find contacts, where to turn to,
запросы или информацию?
fill out a form and ask. So you go to the support.
История, которая
Yes.
долго
It's
развивалась.
a story that's been developing for quite a long time, but currently many such services offer this capability.
Есть одно маленькое осторожное
There's one little cautious
Барбара
comment to make. You know the term Barbara Streisand effect.
вы не хотели.
As soon as you start to bring attention to a picture that you wouldn't like to have a lot of attention, then your
Это
the interest to it is growing. It means that the picture is growing in rankings, and the higher you raise interest in it, the higher it comes. So you should be very cautious to this about this,
побережье.
because Barbara Streisand, there was a case where realtors,
Она возмутилась.
were flying across California, taking pictures of different real estate items. And she started complaining. Before that, her picture was downloaded 5 or 6 times. After she came, complaining about that, people started downloading it hundreds of times.
правом на
So you should be very cautious, and you should be very delicate using the forgetfulness right, because Beyonce tried to do that and did get results. You made me think, if such pictures appear that you don't like, perhaps better is what?
Ситуация не всем
Look, everybody has a different situation. Not all of us are Beyonce. Not all of us will be photographed on stage.
просто
So I think she was just not lucky.
видах мошенничества в соцсетях.
So let's talk about fraud types in social media.
Рекламу баннерную.
There are some popular ones. There are some that we are blind to, have got accustomed to, but perhaps there are some more intellectual and more progressive ways. Fyodor, you've been keeping silence for a long time. Well, the classic thing is we shouldn't ever forget about phishing.
либо
Phishing in messages or
в социальных сетях можно
in some social media, you can put a header on your profile with a link to a malware-based website.
же люди, как и мы,
And, bad guys are the same people like ourselves. They watch TV, they check Twitter,
они отслеживают
and they track
информационную повестку, скажем так.
the information agenda
Например,
and use it in their own purposes.
такую компанию,
With their own purposes. For instance, we were tracking campaign where bad guys
жертвам
were collecting
потрясений в Турции.
donations
Они тем самым используют информационное поле,
for the victims of the Turkish earthquake to their own bank account.
информации. Может быть, еще коллеги мне подскажут.
So maybe my colleagues will prompt something. The second popular story is about the story with hackings using vulnerabilities. Stories like that
Как это в двух направлениях.
happen
Есть
most often in two directions. There are guys who use these vulnerabilities, let's say, like white hackers,
у них на баг-баунте
to get bug bounty for them.
используют эти уязвимости,
Others use these vulnerabilities
пытаются их взломать, пытаются
against users, trying to hack them, trying to do it on a large scale,
в этих уязвимостях
and they don't share information about these vulnerabilities until they are
потому что
discovered, detected by the vendor themselves, because such vulnerabilities can be in the code business logic or in some other elements of the service.
существует просто
And perhaps this is the second largest thing after phishing. Social engineering will always be number one, regardless of what organization it's about. Is the social network or some other resource? It'll always
делать.
it's the simplest thing to do in social media, because there are users,
В которых это можно
there are sections where you can do that, using that against the users who do that.
Пользователя, которые этим
Now let's focus on using it against the users who use that. What's the purpose with which they steal accounts? Oleg,
ради первая причина может быть очень простая
First thing,
для того, чтобы похитить.
can be quite simple. Steal just to break. So to call the effect that you've broken one, made the mailing to their friends, hacked them
Использовать
as well,
дальше
then
для того, чтобы
repeat this information. So in fact, you can collect,
в Турции и отправлять на
for instance, donations for the victims of the Turkish earthquake, sending it to a website that's not really collecting any donations.
людей отправлять
Or
проголосовать
try to,
за меня в
make people
каком-то конкурсе.
vote for you or for somebody else in some contest.
Может быть вызван для того, чтобы
So the effect could be
страдало.
by making the largest number of users suffer from that, to
Чаще всего, конечно,
use that for your own purposes.
денег,
Most likely it's about collecting money,
особенно
attempting
учить использователя
to
банковских карт, да,
extract some bank cards data from users
которая позволит
to make some payments. So any mechanics that will help drug a person from their safe environment and this unsafe environment to direct them into something that you want.
Если не брать во внимание
Ignoring
нездоровых людей в интернете,
the actions of
других просто не бывает,
mentally
то цели
unwell people. It's always that people are pursuing money. I mean, bad guys are pursuing money. Whatever they do, even if we don't see direct
все-таки всегда
monetary benefit, if it's done on some political basis, there's always some way to
плохая.
do monetization. In this connection, there are two news, one good and one bad. The bad guys haven't invented anything new over the past 250 years, but the bad news that's still working.
Москва и москвичи
If you read about how Moscow was living to 120 years ago, at that time,
в интернете
one thing could be observed.
состояние равновесия.
A victim had to be taken away from the in the situation of balance. And you can do this either through wow effect, so wow, you've won, or to put them into a stress situation. And the second situation, it's like, I've brought you bad news and I'm your friend, so this is a solution. So the last train to go there, so
Выходим здесь
get
за эти
checked in quickly. And here we go beyond such scenarios.
полем действия становится
And the ideal field of work here is, gaming machine. If it's either
для мошенников.
you won or you lost. For instance, if you won, so you're doing quite well. I would like to buy your account. So gaming formats
Последние
are going there. Of the recent scenarios I've seen,
паспортами,
they have nothing to do with passports or documents. It's about database leakage.
базы данных утекают.
Bases get leaked, and unfortunately, that will continue getting leaked. And a lot of information about us gets leaked together with them, where we work, where we're ordering pizza.
Попадают уже близкие
And you don't need to be an analyst to understand, because after that, our next of kin and our friends are becoming known to bad guys.
Цифровые личности. Вопрос
Going back to the question about digital personality, the question about leaks is coming up very important, because based on those leaks, you can understand what the user, how the user lives, their way of life, where they live, what they eat, and quite often it also includes very sensitive information, passport details, social security number, health care data, and it can be used for phishing, including social networks. And if the bad guys get to social media, they may use it for other purposes as well,
структуру. Зачастую.
for instance, attack infrastructures, because social media are quite often used in the workplace,
Поле для воздействия.
either for work purposes or for entertainment.
из равновесия. Данные
And an example of how the user can be taken out of the state of equilibrium,
данные вашего
like, for instance, saying that using the data, medical data, I have details of your last health check. The situation is really bad with you. You need to do something really fast to survive. So how to understand that you're being attacked? I'm just thinking,
Если хотят
if they want
оказать какое-то влияние, украсть твой
to put some pressure on you to steal your account
аккаунт,
or to do something bad with your digital or physical personality,
через различные
would it be some impact on you through some digital channels with some wow effect, either positive or negative?
формы и
The result being that you start deviating from your normal behavior, and the probability of making an error is growing, and that would be an error that the bad guy is hoping for.
Понимание, что
Yes, just as we said earlier, at the moment when you understand
ты не видел
that
и вдруг
a friend that you haven't seen for 10 years is writing to you
жить денег и
asking about some money to be loaned or
сделать сбор на последний
voting for him or to donate for some noble cause, at this moment you should stop and understand, are you really talking to your friend or acquaintance?
понимать, какие
And only then to understand what to do next. It would seem that it's very trivial, but in the moment it happens. Like, for instance, you get a call on the phone saying
злоумышленники
that bad guys are trying to make a transfer from your bank account.
людей, к сожалению,
So in the moment,
может быть ситуация,
well, for many people, this is a situation they're not prepared to, and they get to,
здесь то же самое.
name the details of their cards and add some codes. Here, it's the same.
Как нужно
There are some basic rules that you need to apply to understand how you should behave in the internet and public media.
твой друг
So, for instance, a bank employee will not call you.
хорошо, все
Well, a friend will probably not ask for a loan just in the media.
которое должно происходить.
And training the users is a thing that should be happening all the time. In the social media, in the first place,
Большой паблик,
it's a separate story. We have a public channel about security. There are 3.8 million participants there, and we constantly publish
человек должен
even the simplest exercises that people should be able to make.
ставить сторону.
Starting with the complexity of the passwords, using a two-factor authentication,
Что поможет другим понять, что
also checking when you're going to another page that's the same domain.
осторожнее,
So this is the part that we all have to be more careful about. By the way, I recently had a situation with the bank where a new manager called me.
Ставился представитель, он,
He
который у меня есть.
introduced himself as a representative of the bank. He was aware
Еще интересно из услуг.
of the services that I had from the bank, asked if I would like to add something more, told me about some new opportunities. So we
Говорить.
agreed on a meeting. He came to my office. He was dressed up and he had a bank badge. And then I needed to sign some documents. And then I go, well, who are you?
Сработал.
Look, it was some trigger that worked my head. So look, I'm not going to sign anything now.
В банк прям.
I called the bank right in his face, and I was looking
Я говорю, сейчас
how he would respond to that. I'll call the bank
спокойно.
and clarify if you're the employee.
Нам нужно проверить.
So he was quite calm.
Я говорю, извините,
So
сейчас ничего
they said, we can't tell you. And I said, I'm sorry, I won't
ситуации, тогда мы с вами.
do anything. And when I'm clear about that,
В общем, там все было хорошо.
we'll meet again. So they made a call back to me after
Не, ну раз он не
So that it turned out that it was okay. But there was some trigger that suddenly
Паузу.
flashed in my head. I think you were very right to take a pause. This allows you, taking a pause, to restore your emotional level to the normal level. So the first recommendation is always take a pause, make a pause.
Ну, представьте себе,
The second rule: imagine a situation.
везет
Imagine a situation where some lady
в деревню.
Is taking a kid
Но
to his grandmother.
идеальный материал для стрессовой состояния.
So,
Материал
and her luggage, breaks up.
изменяет порча.
So the ideal moment when a gypsy woman would come to her, I see
Дай позолоти.
the bad sign on you, and
Ситуация, если бы это бедно,
what would the situation be if she'd ask? And are you okay? Is your husband okay? And when was the last time you did an X-ray? They're not prepared being asked questions. In your situation, you were not so much interested in the response of the bank, but in the response of the person. It's much more important.
аэропортов
Just like, for the security in airports, there are a lot of video cameras, but nobody is watching them. Everybody is looking at deviations from normal.
себе пояс шахи, они все одноразовые. Он не может быть опытным. Он всегда волнуется и нервничает. Поэтому смотрит на его вот потливость, температуру.
They cannot be experienced. They're looking
Было то же самое. Но
how
в норме
much they sweat.
Спасибо
Any
большое. На самом
deviations,
деле, это то, что я
but
хотел спросить. Заключительный
In that
вопрос.
case, it was
Совет
fine.
вы дали
I would like to wrap up with a final question. What piece of advice would you give
человека в безопасности или понять?
for the audience so that they can
И
protect their digital identities
сделал вывод, что,
and detect whether they're being attacked?
во-первых,
I made the following conclusion for myself.
какое-то внутреннее ощущение, которое складывается, исходя из
There
общения.
is this some internal
Это могут быть
feeling
люди,
you get when talking to suspicious people, maybe suspicious people, old friends,
состояние равновесия, но
or
что-то
any
внутри тебе подсказывает.
attempts to strike you off balance.
И тогда
And something inside you is telling you something must be wrong. Take a break, take a pause.
закрыть эту ситуацию, просто
Разобраться.
разобраться в этой ситуации, да.
You need to find what is going on and see how they react.
Отложить
Whether any response is required at the moment or just delay it,
позже. И
start thinking rationally and get back to this again and double check.
участие таких решений, как киберполигон, который
We have
защищает
this
большие
cyber polygon,
структуры. Дорого, сложно, обоснованно, важно, необходимо.
which is
Но формат киберполигона бывает совсем малобюджетный.
for
Никому не
ensuring protection. But normally it's very expensive. But there is
поговорить с близкими
a
людьми,
cheaper
что будет, если
version
позвонят,
of it.
напишут,
You can
пригласят,
run
позовут,
at your home. Talk to your friends and family. What if this happens? What if they call you? What if they tell you this and that? But this helps you develop a habit of thinking rationally. And we are responsible for ourselves
очень интересно.
and for our family members.
Это очень много про внутренние ощущения,
Thank you so much. It's been a really interesting conversation. It's
личность,
mostly about psychology and our psychological reactions.
того, кто вы есть на самом деле.
And
как вы
your
реагируете
reaction, your response is a reflection of who you are, of what you are.
Спасибо большое.
and what your psychology is. Thank you so much.